Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Ethics of Victoria 2, number, let's say 4.5A. So, I was going through it. The idea has been to try to keep A, B, and C all roughly the same time chronologically. So, this one is actually in 1890, B is in 1894, and C, which I forgot to upload until just the other day, is at 1894 as well. So I thought we were going to have to skip out on a little bit of C, and I think it's actually one episode behind. But it turns out that A is actually lagging. So we're going to hop in here and try to get the game up to 1894. Maybe if it goes beyond that, then we can just add further episodes and treat this just like a regular sort of one. At any rate, though, we're doing very well economically. You'll notice all sorts of little pop-ups going around saying railroads are being completed all across the countryside. So economically, you know, that means that our capitalists are actually doing their jobs, which is pretty great. CSA gets a Conquest Casus Belli. And I believe that would just be on Transvaal. So the reason that we didn't get that earlier was because we just hadn't played that far. So that's interesting. I didn't actually realize how... well, I guess that it was behind whatsoever, this version compared to the others. I think it was mainly because of that Spanish War that we slowed down from Speed 4 or 5 for a good portion of the, game. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get 2 stacks together, and then we're going to rush in and try to seize these gold mines, which should help our economy out considerably. Now, previously, I've stated that I wasn't going to attack America for its northernmost cores, places like... oh, okay, and unfortunately I was trying to make that time lapse, so we're just going to have to reset defaults and hope that we don't have terrible menus. I was trying to make that time lapse for the Greece campaign, and I just turned all the message settings off so I wouldn't have to constantly, worry about them, essentially. Because that would make me have to stop the time lapse and then restart every time a pop-up came. So I turned off our message settings, so we might have missed an important message or two. I'm actually usually pretty finicky. Oh, and look at that. We managed to find Tutankhamun's tomb, which is the end of Egyptian excavations. Bam, as that is the ultimate excavation. At least the game thinks so. Let's see, the United States is cordial with the nation that we're going to just go plow into in a moment or two. That doesn't really matter to us. We do have to go defeat that one Confederate anarcho-liberal rebellion deep in the pits of Africa, but we can do that at any point. Anyway, so what I was saying about taking North American, or American cores in the north, we were originally not going to do that. And my thinking was, if we were just going to do that, then we may as well have just had an America campaign. Well, I realized that that's not a very pragmatic sort of point of view to be taking. So, in fact, we are probably going to roll in and take some of America's cores once we get our infamy down, so that we can actually justify for one of their states without risking, you know, doom, essentially. Now we're just going to go rush on in, invade poor Transvaal. However, their wealth will bring us wealth, and that's really all we need. Plus, it's a state in Africa, as I believe I said in the last episode where this happened. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and rush over and probably take Ohio. The reason we're going to take Ohio is twofold. One, it is the most populous American state. It seems like New York would be because they have 640,000 people in that one, well, New York. However, I did the math. I probably could have just tag switched over to the US, but I didn't do that. I, in fact, just kind of went over the provinces and added up their populations. So I went and did that, and it turns out that Ohio actually has more people than the United States. I actually just have the little calculator tool up on a different tab, so let me just... Alright, so New York had 1.2 million people at the start of this episode, but Ohio had 1.382. Now, that's not really enough in itself to make me want it over New York, since obviously New York is New York City, and that will eventually be a very great boon to us, and I do hope to take it in time. Okay, so the United States of America has declared war on us. So let's go ahead first and mobilize. Let's see, can we justify? No, we cannot justify a casus belli against them. Okay, so what are we going to do instead? Well, we have too many troops in Africa right now, so we'll pull at least one of them up. Our navy is our navy is probably more powerful than the Navy of the United States. Let's look at technology. We have kept up technologically, so we shouldn't be too behind in that regard. We will run this army back and try to move them deep through our territory so they don't get intercepted. We'll send one army group to go to Manassas, and the other group over to Hagerstown. This group will rush up to Manassas as well. Alright, so we'll keep conquering that area. Let's see. We're going to have it so that it opens a pop-up when we finish taking over provinces, as that's a change that I usually make just by myself to the message settings. So it is a little annoying to have to reset those. I will actually run these guys up to Hagerstown since they'll get there on the 4th. So will the Americans, though, so I'm not actually sure who will... Okay, so we are the attacker. We're going to just rush in there and hope that our superior numbers, which don't actually appear to be helping us whatsoever. And we don't have superior numbers. I meant superior organization, but that's also not helping at all. Okay, so we can evacuate in 4 days, which... Oh, God, we are doing horrifically. That was probably the worst thing that could have happened to our military just right then. Alright, so we'll pull these forces back. That was too ballsy of me, I guess is the best way to describe that. February 5th, January 22nd. Well, I know already that we will not evacuate first. We're just going to disband that group. Japan wants to offer us an alliance for whatever reason. We'll go ahead and accept. Keep conquering that one South African country, though, because there's not all that much else we can do. The Americans are occupying a good portion of our country. They have an army way off in the... over in the west. Oh, those cardinal directions. Okay, so... we started this war pretty disastrously, quite frankly. And that is a tremendous problem and a tremendous strain upon our country. And it looks like we're also being attacked. Just groups of our new forces just running up and dying, which is not optimal. Can we just call these guys? They will accept, but not into Transvaal, so we'll hold off for now. Alright, these forces are at least regenerating at some not god-awful rate. Oh, and I don't really want to chase down the American forces, since the last time we did that, we got completely wrecked. So what are we going to do instead? Well, where are they taking over? The American Liberation of Missouri, they're already winning tremendously just by, well, war score from battles. Presumably, they're also taking over the territory pretty quickly, which is, of course, just immensely problematic. I don't want to attack that army just for fear of what happened before happening again. We did get our additional force over, though, so that's good. We will split this navy in two, and we'll start to just blockade their ports. So what are we going to do? We can mount a defense. Pretty assuredly we'll mount a defense just on these mountains. I'm not sure if the American army will come and attack us there, but they probably will. And these two groups will just keep back and have constantly regenerate. We'll split this army of just conscripts into two groups so that it'll just speed the occupations of various provinces. They've just overwhelmed that state. The Wargol state, in fact, which is terribly problematic. We'll add Chile to our sphere of influence. And we're just about done conquering Transvaal, which is good. We'll get Japan in the war, although they aren't really a terribly relevant state for this sort of thing. Oh, what? No, go back. I'm not sure why these forces pulled away. We're going to lose a large portion of our country just with the defensive perimeter that we've set up, but we'll take over the American Northeast, and that's really where their heartland is, at least at this point. Don't attack. Alright, and we'll take over their capital. That's pretty good. We're not going to win this war if we're just doing tit-for-tat occupations, though, since they have much more powerful military forces. We'll run these guys up to Huntington and just occupy the mountains. Now they are facing those terrible losses of being an attacking army, so that's great news. If we can just do more things like this, then we're going to defeat them. Oh, and I hate that they keep just grabbing a hold of the other armies on their route. That is not helpful in the slightest. So we could even just go and encircle their forces to a decent degree. We're going to do that. Hopefully we can encircle them enough to just kind of obliterate that army. They might just go over to Stratton. In fact, they will. We're losing control over a large portion of our territory. That is not ideal by any means. We've almost got Transvaal, though. We defeated their navy. So we'll go sail up and just continue to blockade them. Hopefully this one force will move back up. And where are they retreating? They are just retreating into it. Against my better judgment, we're going to follow them and hope dearly for the best. Alright. Okay, and we are actually winning out loud still. One small American army is intercepting us, but that doesn't matter too much. We'll go ahead and split this army into two groups and still defend the mountain passes. That army should just be obliterated. This army is definitely going to lose, and it was obliterated as well. Alright, no matter. Okay, so their war is going in the slightly negative. We did win that major battle, so that is great news. We'll just drop off one group and then just reinforce. And we can probably just shoot for a white piece. I don't really want to aim for too much more than that. We'll pull those forces up. Here, we'll actually send this group first. Alright, so we won the initial engagement right there. Leave behind the most, let's see, disorganized groups. Bring some additional troops up. Alright, so, we're doing okay. I mean, we're doing okay, that's for sure. We are taking some more casualties than we would like. We will follow that American army. Actually, they're too well organized. We'll just go rush in and try to destroy some of their less organized forces. We're just taking everybody from there and moving them forward, and we'll just attack these various other positions. Alright, so things are going okay. Looking at the war, they're at -7 right now, so that's pretty decent. We have annexed Transvaal, so we can rush that army back. And in fact, we'll actually just use it to defeat the rebellion, since hopefully the war will be over by then, and hopefully I don't regret that presumption. Brazil wants to ally us again, so that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and call in Japan. And who else is our ally now? None of them were loyal, but it looks like they will be loyal now. Oh, I guess not them. Alright, so all the most loyal of our just allied states will hopefully join us now. Japan has joined, and the others will probably follow quickly. Hopefully they don't reinforce that army too much. They are actually just attacking us again, but they did reinforce. We can probably retreat fairly soon. Alright, cool, we've pulled back. We will send at least a portion of that force up. I'm not really all that tempted actually to attack them right there. We will just go try to retake some of our territories. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to send these forces back and defend, as that is far more critical. Oh, and what just happened? Did we peace out with them? What? Japan accepted the peace offer from the United States. Okay, I guess Japan just became the war leader? Oh my god, they're the 4th ranked great power and we're only number 7. Okay, well, we definitely want that to open up as a pop-up, especially if it's our own war. But I guess we got a white peace. Which, yeah, okay. So, lesson from that is definitely we need to attack the United States. We need to attack the United States, and we need to seize Ohio, which is, as I mentioned previously, their most populous state. We must do that. If they have the confidence to declare a war against us, much like the war they just declared, and this is the 2nd time that's happened, when are we going to be even less organized, even less prepared? Like, that war started off just with a terrible defeat for our armies. We cannot afford to let that happen again, which means we are definitely going to need to more actively intervene in our own favor. Texas nationalists are rising up. That's kind of annoying. We accepted a bunch of alliances. We'll have to defeat those Texas nationalists. All of our armies have been taken off of hunting rebels. Oh, that crisis is getting pretty intense. It is Germany backing Romania with the UK against Austria, France, and Russia. So that's pretty interesting. We're not going to get involved because we are on a completely separate continent, and it also doesn't really matter to us. Alright, we should probably reform our armies at some point. We haven't really done much about that in a while. And really at this point we need our armies to be as just spit and shine as we can get them. I'm not sure if that's an actual phrase. Alright, so Europe is in another great war. Mexico banned us thanks to the US. And who can we go influence? Cuba. So we will add the Cubans to our sphere. I guess we'll see if the Germans, who are no longer our allies because they betrayed us terribly, well, I guess we'll see if they manage to defend themselves against the combined weight of the rest of Europe. And if they don't, then, well, shame on them. They deserve it. They are perfidious. At least Japan stepped up to our defense. Oh, and it's a great war, isn't it? Yes, it is. Well, alright. Actually, let's take a look. So they have 821 military power compared to a combined 883. So it does slightly favor the Russians, French, and Austrians. And they are hitting Germany on enough fronts that it might overwhelm them. Now, one of the reasons I'm not at all upset that Japan just made peace with the United States, primarily is because they did not give away Missouri, which would have just upset me to no end. So that's the main thing, just straightforward. The second thing, and it is a pretty large thing in and of itself, is that we didn't have enough infamy to demand one of their states, and that's really the most important thing for us to get at this moment, is just control over American states. So we needed the war to end as quickly as possible so we could begin to fabricate a casus belli against them in the future. With these armies, we're going to make an army out of really just the least dead units we can, and then we'll try to combine an army out of the most dead units that we have. And by dead units, I just mean units that are unable to be reinforced. So that's a full army that only has one slightly damaged unit. And we have a whole other army that doesn't have any at all. Confederate anarcho-liberals are rising up, which is annoying, but not really all that terrible. Alright, so this army will be made up of as many just undermanned groups as we can get together, which is kind of a weird idea for an army, I will admit. But that gets them out of the rest of the military. So there we go, that's almost an entirely undermanned group, which is a little awful, honestly. Alright, so we'll have them hunt rebels, and who knows, maybe they'll just end up disbanding portions of themselves. We should really get rid of the Hussar, but then we just lose it forever. The irregular unit we're just going to disband since there's really no reason to have it. I mean, I guess there's also no reason to get rid of it. We'll just hold on to it, and maybe it'll come into use at some point. At any rate, now is probably a good moment to ask ourselves, what is there that we need and can build? Oh, we can actually move this infantry and put it into that undermanned group, and then we'll have a not undermanned group So that's good, that's good. So what do we need? We need 1 Dragoon, 3 Infantry, and we can build a ton of units out of Africa. That's really the main place at this point. So we'll just build an entire army out of Africa first. We added that 1 Dragoon though, and only 2 artillery and no engineers. Alright, so that was 3 infantry, no engineers, but we should probably replace this undermanned one. We'll do that at some point later. But anyway, that should be enough to just complete those, and then we can only get 8 more, so we'll just not do anything else at the moment. And then that'll get our military up to a decent place. We'll have 60 brigades. The United States of America currently has 50, so they're matched with us brigade-wise at the moment. We will hopefully slowly overwhelm them, although that really is for the future to show. Looks like in Europe they managed to just completely overwhelm Romania, as is not surprising whatsoever. The big factor will really be if the United Kingdom is able to get enough forces over. Looks like Austria-Hungary managed to snipe a little bit out of Germany and force the Germans and the British to capitulate. So that's very interesting. They're still the first and second ranked world powers, or great powers in the world. And let's see, we'll try to get our army over. We just got revolution and counter-revolution, that's pretty good. We could get more industry techs and things. We have a lot of places closed down due to the war and just the hardships that that provoked. We'll tax the poor in response to that, and hopefully the rich will be able to do their duty and bring our civilization back into working order. So that was pretty negative in so many words. Just for our civilization, I suppose. Civilization might not be the best word, but it's very damaging to our country. Alright, so what do we need to do? Well, fight Jacobins seems to be the first thing. We will send this army off to go do that. We were going to pluck up one of our armies from Africa, the only army still in Africa. Go find them. There they are. Alright, we'll bring them back, and then we'll put the undermanned group in that undermanned army, and they'll really just exist to support us in the event of some horrible eventuality. Looks like Africa is doing just amazingly well under our benevolent rule, so we will use that to get more soldiers. Alright, so that's actually working amazingly well. Austria wants to ally us, which I really don't see a reason either to do or not to do, although they are proving to be the more effective of the Germans, and I am fairly upset with the other Germans. Can we form an alliance with the UK? No, but only barely no. We'll increase our relations with them, and we'll see if we can get the UK. Austria we don't really want or need. We will get better health care and just keep going down that route. We'll hold out the alliance for with the Austrians, but we'll wait and see if we can get the UK instead. Cool. And we'll actually just get the Austrians as well, just because. Alright, so the UK is actually a decent ally because it's conceivable that they may be of some use to fight the United States. But right now we have Japan, which is a naval power that in our previous games we've determined is not helpful at all. Alright, whatever, we'll re-ally the Germans. I guess it doesn't really matter, and I guess the UK and Germany are both humbled powers as far as those go. But they'll definitely provide us enough, well, I mean, I can't say they'll definitely provide us enough, not gravitas, not really anything. Enough military score, presumably, that it'll prevent the United States from just outright attacking us, but I thought that when we allied the Germans in the first place. So it's entirely conceivable that allying all these great powers won't actually deter the Americans. And that's a pretty sad thought. That being said, we don't really know for sure, so we'll see how it goes. And we'll just merge these two groups, get as many undermanned groups into that one army as possible, and one of them actually just switched to... I'm not sure if it actually switched, but at any rate we have an entirely slightly less than fully ready to go group. We'll only slightly encourage residency. It would be great to get more people to be, you know, God-fearing Confederates, I suppose. Which is a little bit of an odd thing, but you know, hopefully we'll get more people to embrace our culture, as I'm pretty sure that's going to be one of the ways that I end up measuring success at the end of this campaign, is which country managed to get the most people to be, I guess, their citizens and successfully their citizens. Which I suppose is a bit of an odd way to measure success, but I mean, I think it's good. Alright, and we should have a solid number of brigades at the end of this. And in 5 years, we're probably just going to plow back against the United States because we need to take over Ohio and probably New York, and I'm just completely giving up on the idea of us not pressing too far north and just becoming a United States with a different name. Because we won't have the West. We'll just be an eastern sort of country based in the Confederate capital. We'll let the Americans have their West Coast, and I suppose we're going to be forced to leave them in the District of Columbia. Let's just give everyone full citizenship. We want them to integrate. And that's really the best way to do that, to achieve that. And we have really high supply limits just due to all of our recent actions. We have a bunch of unemployed, unfortunately, just because Missouri was absolutely ravished in that war. So we're going to stop encouraging people to be craftsmen there. We'll encourage clerks, and that'll hopefully help the issue somewhat. So what else do we need to do? Well, we're just going to build armies in Africa, siphon them all off to that coast, give our people some really nice health care. And we're actually getting a really amazing amount of people into our military. That is just honestly very surprising considering the, well, no, actually I suppose it's not, because the other version of the Confederacy was doing very well with soldier pops, and I had just assumed that that meant that we were more successful because we were encouraging soldiers. However, we're not encouraging soldiers, we're encouraging craftsmen in this one, and our population of soldiers is very high, so it might just be that in the interim years, since that ended in 1894, it might just be that in the intervening years they managed to get just much more successful, or much more soldier pops, I suppose, really, not to dance around it. So who knows? We will join the International Olympic Committee, and our army is becoming more powerful, more respectable. The United States has a weaker army, more, well, just less respectable than our own, so that is very good news. Hopefully we will be able to leverage that to future battlefield successes. And as soon as, let's take a look, 1896 rolls around, we're going to justify a war against them and really just stick it to them pretty well. If we can take over Ohio, I'm pretty sure we'll break the back of their country for quite some time. Migration-wise, we're not getting very many. The United States is getting a ton, and so is Canada. So we really need to up our reform game. Otherwise, we really just stand to fall behind. Although, admittedly, we are able to, I guess, meet that by just conquering the United States, although that is somewhat of a less optimal solution. We will do that, though. We will attack the United States if we're able to. Right now, it looks like most of our factories are coming back online. Let's actually look. Missouri just really is terrible for factories. I guess they were all sold off since they all just collapsed. Which isn't great, but I suppose it is something to be expected. We'll keep getting industry techs. We're actually a very technologically advanced state with 78.79% education, or literacy. And it doesn't look like we're building any more units. That seems a bit off since we just have so many infantry, but I suppose they're all going to fill out those two armies. So we will go ahead and just split this in half and load these troops up. We have 82 brigades, but that makes sense as we do have that one extraneous group of hussars, which we're probably just going to push off to the corner with those irregulars. And they'll just exist to really just trap enemy armies if it ever comes to it, but we're going to have to hold them back for the first long majority of any war that we find ourselves in against the United States. Simply because Well, they'll just die, admittedly, is the big thing. They'll just die, or we'll put them in with some other armies and forget about them. And then they won't be very much use at all. Alright, so that's a full army. And this should also be at least 2 full armies if we planned it all right. Alright, so there we go. We have 82 full brigades. We'll move this guy back so we don't get terrible attrition, and it looks like since we have such high advanced medicine and all that, we wouldn't have taken attrition anyway. And we can build a whole 2 new armies, so we will do that. Once again, we'll just build artillery, and I suppose 1 engineer in North America. And we'll just fill out the army. Alright, so that's very good. We are really doing quite well. And in fact, I didn't realize when we were recording earlier how far ahead, just down the timeline of the game, our other CSA, the CSA where we were just trying to brutalize the whole world, essentially. I didn't realize how far ahead they were, and that actually makes this CSA far more successful. So it definitely seems like the pragmatic course is, well, it has its benefits. We'll see if it manages to stay ahead of the curve as we move into the future, though. And that should be fairly interesting. As for the Confederacy of Good, more or less, that's an interesting case. Since we're not going to be able to measure their success in the same ways that we're going to be able to measure the success of this Confederacy or of the more evil one, so what we're probably going to do is measure their success by the, I guess, 2 things. The relative size of the impoverished classes, the poor, compared to the middle and the rich. Although right now, we are getting tons of luxury goods even for our poorest strata of civilization, which is actually quite interesting. I guess we just have, well, we have the 2nd most prestige. Well, actually, I'm not even sure why that is. That seems just abnormally high. Our soldiers are doing very well. Our laborers are doing exceedingly well. Our farmers are doing mediocre, and our craftsmen are doing, well, just well enough, I suppose. Some of them aren't doing too well. That's pretty interesting. Maybe we might even be successful, or more successful than the Confederacy of Good. And that would be a pretty interesting discovery, I think. Although I suppose it will confirm my earliest suspicions. Meanwhile, over here, it looks as though the Ottomans are finally getting attacked by the Russians, although it has happened previously. Persia is trying to demand oh wait, no. Russia, wait. What? Okay, so the Ottomans are trying to defend Afghanistan against Persia and Russia. That's a pretty weird hill to die on. But I guess props to you guys. Go ahead and die where you feel like. Alright, we'll just make an entirely African army right now, just so we don't have to worry about waiting until we have enough forces. We'll just know. And that should be good. And since we haven't bought up stockpiles of critical resources, it'll take a good few days for them to actually gather the resources for those armies, and that'll give enough time. Ooh, and we can invade Italy. And now they were just added to the Austrian sphere, so I don't actually want to do that. But that would have been a nice way to grab that province, if they hadn't just had that happen. Oh well, I suppose you can't win them all. Alright, and the unemployment rate in Missouri is collapsing slowly. It's still pretty high, and it's going to be very high for quite some time. Hopefully, though, it does manage to resolve itself. And now we bought all those stockpile goods, we're back to a budget surplus. We'll just... Oh, hey, look at that. This is almost a just full functional army. Neat. I didn't actually anticipate that. And it looks like we are getting these 10 units coming across right now. They'll still be a little while. But the good news is we can actually divide this into a full and functional army. I don't know why I didn't suspect that, since we you know, designed it that way, and then there's just the one that isn't going to be a full and functional army, but that's not any problem since it'll go meet up and become one. So we'll go bring them over to the regular United, or to our mainland, I suppose, and combine that army. Alright. And that should be the final group of it. We'll just leave these guys back for a second so the rest can all get there. The Netherlands wants to ally us. We will accept, simply because there's no reason not to. They do have something vaguely resembling a naval force. The United States has 81 brigades, so at this point we don't actually need to fear them. It seems like we might even be able to get away with not constantly attacking them and just driving them to the point of non-existence. However, that does bring up the other point, which is what really convinced me that we may as well spread north. For one, it was just, quite frankly, the fear of the United States overwhelming us. The other fear, and it's a considerable one, and we are going to tax our rich a little bit just so we can fund our navy and not have it, you know, decay into nothingness as we transport people back and forth. And it is decaying into nothingness, so it's probably good that we worried about that right now. What was I going to say? Alright, so the main goal originally was just because the Americans were terrifying, and it seemed like they would kill us all. The secondary goal, and I guess it's now going to become the primary goal, since we are just in a more dominant position than I thought we would have been. Our new objective for taking those provinces is really just that they're the best provinces we can get our hands on. I mean, it's 11 war score to take over that. We could alternatively risk 10 it's 11 infamy to take over the most populous American state that is industrialized, successful. Yeah, that's basically it. It's industrialized in a successful territory. Or we can waste 10 infamy taking over this African coast that we're probably never going to really use. So, from just a purely pragmatic standpoint, it makes a lot more sense to go and take over Ohio. And we'll take over Ohio and probably New York and then Pennsylvania. And then it's really just going to be a matter of me hating terrible borders. That's going to make us clean up the rest of the area. But we will probably clean it up nevertheless. As that hatred of bad borders is, although maybe a dumb thing to have, it is something that's really dear to me. Cannot have a successful country with terrible borders. Not if you're me. And we'll grab some Mexicans to make an engineer battalion, group, division. You know, it's the word division. Or brigades. It's brigades. It's not even divisions. Okay, so brigades. I don't know why I keep shuffling that word around interchangeably. And I'm pretty sure it's not actually interchangeable, otherwise they wouldn't have multiple words for it. Alright, we'll let our poor become more conscious. That will help us pass reforms. We only need 2 more reforms, and then I don't really care about passing reforms other than just to keep the people from overthrowing us. Which, you know, is a pretty considerably important thing. Alright, so we will go ahead and get our blue and brown water schools doctrine so we can upgrade our naval bases. And we're definitely going to have to defend Missouri in our future wars, as they are not bouncing back very quickly, although they are bouncing back. Really, that artillery factory is holding up our economy in the area. Alright, and in just about 7 months, we'll be able to justify against the United States, and we'll just split them in half. We may just declare the war and then not advance against them. We will lose over our territory in Chihuahua. The American army right there is probably just going to slam on through it, and there's not much we can do to prevent that from happening. We'll go ahead and get acceptable school systems, though. And at this point, we should probably be looking to get our people less radical, get them less socialist and all that. Although, really, there's no reason for us not to pass reforms. Reforms will allow us to get more people. Ooh, what's this? We lost 2 of our transports somehow. And we have a lot of clipper transports that we don't really want anymore. So we'll go ahead and just disband those groups, and we'll build 6 new. Alright, and that should be good. That will bring that up to speed. And the rest of those armies should be showing up over time. At this rate, we have enough money that I am considering just going into our trade view. We may as well just buy small arms while we can. It looks like it's not in high demand, which is pretty cool. Buy all the artillery we need. Ammunition, why not? And this will probably be very expensive, but not for all that long. Alright, what else do we need? Probably regular clothes, maybe luxury clothes later on, but not right now. We will need wine for some of our groups. Apparently my fan just freaked out a little bit. Alright, we probably do need liquor as well. Just trading for all these important resources. Alright, what else do we need? Let's just see. Small arms, canned food, explosives. Okay. Yeah, canned food, explosives, luxury clothes for things like them. Alright, explosives don't really seem like they're that important, but we will get them just because we do build quite a few engineer groups, 1 per army. So, where are explosives? Probably industrial, and they are. Cool. Alright, we'll grab those. That's really all we need for now. We'll go ahead and research steel steamers, and we don't really need to research the next level of naval base tech, since, well, we need to build all of these first. That's another reason why our high tax rate is not so unreasonable, since we need a fairly large surplus to actually build these naval bases. Alright, naval bases all across our eastern seaboard. We don't really need to upgrade this one in Africa, but we're doing it anyway. And it is nice to just have places for our forces to go stop off. So we'll also build forts on our African naval bases. Just so that if we do fight a war in Africa, which we already have had to do once, and we'll go disband that 1 infantry group since there's no sense building a new army with already dead infantry, or already undermanned infantry groups. Let's see. Alright, so that will fix that army up entirely. This navy is ready to go. And we will just keep allying the random powers of the world. It does show, it is really a good thing for our country that so many people want to ally us. It signifies that we're doing very well. Oh, and it's already November, so we kind of missed the prime opportunity, but we'll go ahead and look. They are allied with a bunch of random states in Central America, which doesn't matter, and we will go to acquire one of their states, and hopefully not take so much infamy in the process. But we're totally taking Ohio. It'll split them in half, which will hopefully make it more likely that they'll fall to rebellion in their capital. And so now the question, how do we dispossess our armies? Not really dispossess in the term of, you know, take stuff from them, but what should their strategic disposition be? And for that, I guess the answer is we'll build a couple more and see what we can do. We will build more units here in our homeland. I had wanted not to build them split between continents like we just did. However, I suppose there's no tremendous reason why we shouldn't. Oh, and we still need canned food. So let's go ahead and just buy a tremendous stockpile of that. And hopefully that'll work out for us later on. Now somewhere in Africa there should be a single group roving about, and they are, and it looks like Zanzibar is falling to the French, which sucks but isn't really unexpected. And, you know, I believe it'll take more than 80 or so days for that to actually get into position, but that's not the biggest deal. And now whenever we build an army, they should just immediately kick into production. We'll go ahead and support laissez-faire because the only alternative at this point is just out-and-out state capitalism, and that kind of isn't really an option, since it would just be really tedious to implement. Mission to the USA has been slowed down. We will research a little bit more commerce, just get that kicking a little bit. Another crisis over Romania. God knows I don't really want to get involved. The UK was so down. Alright, and it looks like it won't really even turn into a great war unless they're going to support the UK. Well, obviously the UK and Germany are going to lose because they lost the last one, and I believe it was less than 5 years ago. Oh, and what just happened? Infantry, infantry. Well, that's good then. We'll just load these guys up and combine them. Send this boat back. Alright, and we're just going to declare the war as soon as we're able to. Which really... okay, cool. Only 5 infamy. That's pretty good. We'll go seize Ohio and then 5 years later roll back in and seize New York, breaking the back of the United States, making us, well, maybe not a better industrial power than they are, but once we take their eastern seaboard, I do not doubt for a moment that we'll be the more superior state. Now, unfortunately, we did lose several little army groups in that rebellion just then, which just affected our armies, which is still not great. I mean, that is really not great at all. We will just go ahead and disband those dragoons, since we really don't want our army to find itself without really any sort of dragoon support if it came to it. Oh, and cool, we get some jingoism. That's pretty nice. And we will just build 2 new dragoons out of just our forces up in America. What else does this army need? It needs 1 infantry and all of its artillery. Alright, so that should bring that back up to speed. And pretty soon we'll have all these forces ready, and look at they are just immediately all being constructed, so that is great news. So I suppose that means that this this group of 15,000 men is all we need right there. Alright, and we'll just pull these guys back, and that's pretty good because the war will probably start when these guys get back, and that's the larger navy, which is the one that we want in position. And we'll bring this smaller navy over, and that should defend our next army as we bring it over. Send these guys over to Charlottesville, or Charlotte. Alright, so when we declare the war, they might go after that one province. That's not ideal, but not really too problematic. We might just push forward a little bit right there, although they will have some, most likely, numerical superiority in that portion of the front line. We'll try to surround their group in Washington, and to that end we'll bring 90,000 men right there, and we'll just circle around. We'll probably move these 2 armies up. We'll be pretty cautious. We do have additional forces though, so we'll bring them over. We should probably bring them over to the east. Alright, and those armies are being constructed. They'll be done fairly soon. And then it'll be a matter of just declaring the war, and we can do that right now. And once again, the target is Ohio. I know that'll make some pretty terrible borders, but we have to do it. Well, we don't have to do it. We choose to do it. We choose to do it because it's glorious. And we'll rush up. Hopefully get them to launch some foolhardy attack against us. If I take this over, there we go. We have an admiral for that. We can now build battleships, although I don't believe we actually have any ports capable of holding battleships. We'll move those 2 groups up to just shorten the front line a little bit. Well, it doesn't actually shorten the front line, but it moves it into hostile territory, and that's good. They're going into Harrisburg, which is really helpful, and we'll just slam these troops all into there and bring these forces up to reinforce. Alright, now we have vision over that whole area, and we'll slow the game down just a bit. Alright, and we are winning that battle. here's a thought. We should probably prevent them from rolling into our countryside. We will move this group over. That opens us up to be encircled, but not too badly. Okay, the international crisis broke down. We're not going to answer their call to arms, and we should also probably not leave it up, because I have learned from experience now that I'll probably just click it on accident. Okay, so they're going there on October 19th. We'll get there on the 22nd. This army will get there on the 19th as well. So okay, here's an idea. Boom, 20th, 21st, 22nd, and also 21st. So that should work out well enough. Boom. Oh, they're trying to go to Manassas and kill our group of irregulars. We're just going to disband them. Alright, so that army's nowhere near ready. Of course they wouldn't be. These armies are doing decent by the looks of things. We could probably pull some forces a little bit out of the way, but we won't pull too many troops into that battle just yet. There we go. We've got additional forces ready. We'll leave these guys back, and we'll just leave them in Norfolk. Alright, and we did win this battle. They're going up to Champaign. We'll follow them. Not with this army, though. We'll hold it back so it can reinforce. We will bring this army up and over, though, and it looks like that was a good call since American forces are just flooding into the area. Will we beat them there on November 1st? We'll get there on November 2nd. We'll try to get both armies there to convince them that they can't, and it worked. Russia wants military access. Okay, yeah, so we're not... Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. So it's the Second Great War, basically same people as before. Apparently, somehow the UK has managed to just overwhelmingly tilt the deck in their favor. I suppose it's because they brought all their little colonial buddies, and also the Ottomans. So that's kind of interesting. We will actually open these up, and we'll just be super careful. Alright, so we did defeat that American force. We will leave these two groups back to reinforce. Most of their armies are going to Harrisburg. A few are going to Baltimore. We could probably send our undermanned groups to chase after them into Baltimore. They'll get there on the 5th? No, they'll get there on the 3rd. These guys will escape on the 5th. So I'll actually give them a couple days to retreat. Oh, and they don't want to anymore. Ooh, and cool, we're actually on the defensive right there, so we'll bring reinforcements in. We'll pull these two armies back, as they desperately need to reinforce, and we'll just pull them back into our countryside and try to avoid those American armies. That army group should just be obliterated. Looks like we won that battle, not quite obliteratingly so, and in fact we're doing somewhat poorly. Poor Missouri is taking it again, so we're just going to bring our forces around a little bit. We'll actually bring this group up, send this group down to reinforce right there. Lost control over Fredericksburg. It looks like they're charging that army. We'll just pull away. Hopefully we don't. Okay, we didn't get out in time. I don't want to lose those occupations, so we'll just let them take the brunt of it for now. They're going to Richmond, so... That's the interesting thing. We can actually probably just go ram into that force and do enough damage. These guys are going over to Baltimore, so we'll just follow them now. And hopefully this group will finish its occupation soon enough. We can go reinforce those guys. Lost the Battle of Kansas City. We also have not mobilized, which is different than all of our previous wars. Alright, bam. Won that. Man, that's annoying. Okay, we're gonna have to just pull back. We might just lose that army group. No, we were able to retreat, so that's not ideal, but it does work. Alright, we'll pull this group up. Hopefully maintain something of an encirclement. They are defeating us in the, I guess, frontier territories. Once that ticks over, there we go. We have that more manned, more successfully manned. These guys are retreating over to Washington. Once again, we'll chase them down. And we're getting close to the hour. We'll move this group back. Alright, so these guys are rushing into Norfolk. We did lose the siege, or we lost the occupation. That's fine. We'll destroy that American army and then roll in and smash through with the rest of our forces. Alright, so these armies will just keep together. This one's apparently hunting rebels. We'll keep those forces together. Smash into this group. We did destroy the other American army right there. Alright, so we'll just smash into that one small group. Alright, we're doing okay. Unless you're in Missouri, in which case you're not doing well at all, and also in Texas and kind of in Chihuahua. We'll wait for the occupation there to finish, since it should only take a few days. Alright, we won right there. We'll go chase down this one group of American armies. Won that occupation of Springfield. Don't go charging over there. Man, so this is a pretty bloody affair. Like, honestly, our straight up evil version of the Confederacy was definitely a more correct version in the sense of reducing our own casualties, since this has been just an absolutely bloody endeavor. I'll have to combine at the end all of the, I guess, casualties of these American wars. Let's see, January 12th and 13th, we can get there on the 13th and 14th, and then roll up and defend, or reinforce. War score is considerably in our favor. Will they accept peace? They will. Alright, let's go ahead and do that. We can always go after them a little bit more later on. And there we go, we've split their country in half. So that's good. That is definitely good. We also, let's see what our industry becomes. Our industry has hopped up and then went down a little bit because a lot of people have lost their jobs. But let's see, what does Ohio have? Ohio, oh my god, they have 1/3 craftsmen unemployed. So that's really good for us. And it knocks the United States down a peg, which is even better. And we're just going to combine these armies and just try to split off all the most damaged groups into their own separate armies. Alright, so that's pretty good, that's pretty decent at least. We'll go send this army over. We'll get all the ones that are fully remannable, I guess. Fully reinforceable. Making up words I don't need to. So all of our fully reinforceable groups will keep together over in the west. Well, that isn't even a full army. Alright, so we have this group rolling on away. And this is a full army, or at least it can become one. So yeah, as far as wars go, that one was significantly bloodier than I would have liked. However, it was very much a success. Alright, this group can become a full army again. We'll just let it go. So can that group. That group's just that one hussar, which really did prove to be worthwhile. Alright, that group is undermanned. These groups are not. And I guess that's really just how we're going to see the episode end, is just by merging and unmerging armies and trying to organize them in a way that is rational, which hopefully, I mean, I guess it is somewhat tedious. Well, not tedious. It might not be the most interesting thing. It is very important for our success in the future, so I don't really mind doing it. Hopefully you guys don't mind watching it. I am hoping to get the time-lapse portion of the Greece campaign. Take an attrition. Stop. Okay. I'm hoping to get the time-lapse portion of our Greece campaign out in the near-ish future. I can't say specifically when. Hopefully this weekend. That would be ideal. Okay, so the first thing I did was I deleted all the event folders from the game so that I wouldn't have to deal with closing them out all the time, but then the AI didn't go to war with each other, so it would have just been a time lapse of absolutely nothing happening. So there are a small number of events that pop up and just basically ruin the time-lapse recording effort. So I tried to get rid of those. We'll see how well it works. I'll probably just have to add everything in and then just actively spend some time watching it, which isn't really the worst thing. I used to do that all the time when I really made that time-lapse channel. So I'm kind of used to it, and I don't really mind it. And I'll probably do that when I finish recording this, just so I can go back and really fix the message settings. As that kind of... It wasn't really problematic, but it was certainly annoying at the beginning of this video to have to just in a rush and sort of a fit switch our message settings back so we don't miss anything. And we probably missed a few, hopefully not too important things with that. Alright, so we have this entire undermanned army. Really, we're just going to use our undermanned armies if I can remember where they are, because I accidentally just hurtled them in with the rest of the armies in the beginning of this war. I guess probably the most humane thing to do with them would just be using them for occupations. Although I'm not sure how successful we'll be with that. But just to keep them away from the front lines to the best of our ability. That'd probably be not too bad of an idea. It looks like we're going to have a lot of groups that are just semi-horrifically undermanned, but also semi-entirely coherent units. So that'll be not really the best. And at one point it would be lovely if we could get rid of them all. Although that last war against the United States was too close for my personal comfort. Although obviously we did win it. We won it, and we won it quickly. Although, we didn't win it as decisively as I would have liked, and in fact our industry is probably going to take a little while to recover. Obviously our industrial score has recovered, but that's just due to our conquests. Alright, so when we come back we're probably going to build up more armies. I feel like this actually would work not as an episode like 4.5, but an actual full-on episode 5, since we got far enough ahead, hopefully. Looks like the UK and Germany are still losing this great war. Turns out if your mainland is just absolutely destroyed in a great war, it's not a great idea to hop into a new one right away. But I suppose that's the lesson they'll learn. And it'll knock the Germans and hopefully the UK down a peg, which will help us become a more successful great power. We're already ranked number 6, and the United States is down to rank 8. So that's good news. Yeah, over time we'll just keep plowing through their northeast. We'll leave them their west coast areas because I don't really want them. At least not yet. At that point it'd be too much infamy for not enough actual good. Who knows, we might even just go run on up and take parts of Canada, depending on where we find ourselves in the future. It looks like if we took our Ontario, we would have to take over all of this, which I don't really want to do. I wish there was more of a Quebec sort of region, which there is, but I mean, I guess a Montreal sort of bit. Is that actually where Montreal is? I kind of just made that up. I guess Ontario. Montreal, where's Montreal? Is it over here? That's Quebec City. Oh, there's Montreal. Alright, so that's not right at all, really. Somewhat, but not close enough. Alright, well, it's already over an hour, so I'm not going to keep you guys too much longer. Our armies are basically together in a coherent manner, tons of undermanned brigades. Once we clean out the northeast, though, we can probably afford to drop that, and it's already the era of great wars. So if they ever get a great power ally, we'll just have to get ourselves a great power ally to drag in, and we can actually probably just seize a lot of their countryside for basically no infamy. So that would be ideal. Yeah, hopefully they'll ally the UK or someone else who's just getting destroyed, someone else being only Germany. Alright, sorry about the god-awful borders, but we will hopefully rectify that in time. Have a great day. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll get that time-lapse out for the Greece campaign, hopefully this weekend. And start a new series, probably in EU4 with the ME IOU and taxes mod, which I am pretty interested to start. I've never actually played with it, so I don't imagine I will be the most successful, but I will probably just read about it for a good hour or two, watch a YouTube video, and see if I can't piece together enough information to be interesting and hopefully somewhat successful. Have a great day. Thanks again for watching. I'll try to get a video out every day.